Okay, so um, I'm gonna take like 45 minutes, not more than an hour, like 45 minutes out of my evening to do something that I didn't really want to do in the last video. Like I'm kind of mildly irritated. It makes me kind of want to take the whole video down, honestly, because I hate to get off the discussion in my videos, but I figured I would take like a special break. I would take a special break to give people the opportunity. If they felt they wanted to call me out on something, you can call me out. The only thing is, you have to be willing to click the StreamYard link and come up to call me out as in person as we could be on the internet. You don't get to call me out from the chat. If you're going to call me out from the chat, it's not going to work. Because I feel like my last video, I'm irritated like 5 minutes out of my video was taken to address something that the video wasn't about. And I was like, it would be so much easier to just make a video to give people the opportunity to, to get, get your troll on, be weird, have your moment, ask your questions, talk your mess. But the only thing, like I said, is that you have to be willing to come up. Now, this might be a very short video because I find that people only like to troll when it's inappropriate, right? I feel like people don't like to troll, don't want to really, they only really want to address stuff when it's not the appropriate time to address it. But if you give them like a designated time to be ridiculous, that they're not going to really be ridiculous. But let's see. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to relax, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit. I'm going to give it, 15 minutes. If we get somebody who's willing to, you know, be trolly at an appropriate time, then that's fine. Otherwise, and I feel like maybe I could do this like once a month or something to keep my chats clean. Maybe like once a month, I can, um, maybe like once a month. No, that's not calling me out. That's ridiculous. I'm gonna put you on a timeout. Maybe like once a month, what I can do is I can give this opportunity. And then I can have a more zero tolerance policy in my chats because then if you have an issue, you have to bring your issue to this particular time. Because I hate for my conversations with you guys to be getting all sidetracked because people are in a mood. So, like I said, I'm gonna ramble on. I'm gonna give people an opportunity. If you feel you want to call me out on something, now's the time. But again, the only thing is you can't call me out from the chat. You have to click the link. You have to click the link and you have to come up here and, be a halfway man or woman about it. Because, y'all aren't going to show your faces, 99% of you. But you come up here and at least put your voice to it, right? Now, this is probably going to be an opportunity for some people who are like proverbial 10-year-olds to be retarded. But I hope that like it's a genuine sort of thing. Like if you genuinely have an issue, if you genuinely, feel some kind of way, this is the perfect time. Oh, I'm giving people an opportunity to have their gripes because I felt like there was kind of like a weird person in my last chat that was like typing the same thing over and over and over for like an hour straight. They literally typed the same thing, which is lightweight psychotic. It's psychotic. But I figured if I gave people who are, have that kind of weirdness about them an opportunity to like in a constructive sort of environment, voice their queries and concerns, it would work. It would work a lot better. But I see that really, I don't think anybody's going to come through for it. I just want everybody to remember that I gave this time. The next time somebody comes in my chat and has attitude or makes a video or anything, I'm going to come back to what's today? I'm going to come back to Wednesday, March the 3rd at 4:30 p.m. and I'm going to say, On Wednesday, March the 3rd at 4:30, I gave people an opportunity. You want to call me out, Sin? You can't call me out from the chat. If you want to call me out, you need to click the link and call me out. Otherwise, you can't call me out. The same rule applies for you. A lot of people already think I show you favoritism, so I'm not going to be breaking any rules for the likes of you. Okay? You can come get this work like everybody else. But I don't think anybody's going to come up for this because I really feel like people only get trolly when they think it's inappropriate to do it. I don't think people really get trolly when they think, oh, okay, there we go. A lady has come up, and actually, I'm familiar with her. So, hello.
Hi, Irene. What's good? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I sure can.
Yo, I'm actually a follower of yours, and I there's some things I agree with you with. There's some things I disagree with you with. I think you're a very intelligent woman overall, but I don't think you ever addressed my question. Maybe you have, but you can inform me if you ever
Mhm.
addressed the question of why you decided to do an interview with Tommy Sotomayor.
Yeah, I remember you asking me that question. I did address it. I don't remember which video, but I can't, but I did. But I don't mind answering it right now. So, I was over on, and this kind of goes into something somebody was asking me earlier about why I go on certain channels. But I was over on O'Shea's channel. I'm very fond of um, O'Shea, you guys. So I was over on his channel, I think for Sunday Rumble, and Tommy had come up over there, and he wanted to collaborate. I think he wanted to interview me, right? Because we did 3 or 4 videos together. And O'Shea introduced the two of us. And way back in the day, before I ever conceived of having like a YouTube channel or anything like that, I had seen some of his videos and I was like very shocked and kind of taken aback by the content. Like some of it, I kind of understood where he was coming from, and other parts of it, I was like, oh my gosh, you know? And so when I had the opportunity to talk to him, I was like, absolutely. Like, yeah, I will definitely talk to you. And to be honest, um, and I know people aren't going to like it when I say this, he is not a bad person off of YouTube. As far as like my personal interaction with him, he's always been polite. Um, he really loves his mother. Um, he's like, that is what I got from him off of YouTube, right? So I was really interested to talk to him because, as you guys know, I like to talk to people who have different opinions. Um, and so we had a conversation, maybe a conversation or two over in his channel and a conversation or two over here on my channel. And we just kind of talked about where he's coming from, differences of opinions, and things like that. And I really don't have a better reason than that. Is um, yeah, he's definitely controversial. He definitely has a take on things that's really his own, and I could hardly pass up the opportunity to talk to him. It's sort of like when I brought Obsidian over here. Did you see that interview with Obsidian?
I kind of grazed it. I never really
Yeah,
saw the whole.
I don't blame you for grazing it, but it's kind of like when I brought Obsidian over here. He's very controversial, you know. I don't agree with 89% of the things that come out of his mouth. But it wasn't about that because I like talking to people where I have an opposing point of view or who are controversial. I like those conversations. And I really like when we can have conversations and they not be negative. I think that's really important too. And I'll say something that you might really disagree with, but you could tell me if you disagree with it. Um, I think sometimes when you're dealing with people who are controversial like Tommy, and I've said this, I just don't think a lot can be accomplished if we infight, you know? Like somebody has to lay down the sword at some point. And so I think every time he has a civilized conversation with somebody, even if our views are not completely aligned, that is a step forward. versus us constantly beefing. Now that may go nowhere, you know what I'm saying? But I think, that's like my general attitude when I talk to people. Same thing when Obsidian was over here. I was like, I was hoping to find like something deeper in you. And he was like, nope, there's nothing deep in me. This is all that there is. And that was fine. Do you know what I mean? Um, but it didn't
I,
stop me from trying to have that conversation and seeing if we couldn't find like a peaceful place that we could meet and have like a meeting of the minds. I don't know if that makes sense.
no,
Um,
it makes perfect sense. I actually agree with you. I like to talk to people who have a different opinion as well. But I learned this like a while ago. There's something called the Bayesian theory, which states that if there is basically, I'm just kind of summarizing it. The theory states that if you are having a discussion with somebody and the two of you can't agree upon what the facts are or upon the underlining points of your discussion, then there's no point in thinking that the discussion is going to move forward. So you said that Tommy Sotomayor is not a bad person, which is hilarious to me because and that he's not and that he's polite, which is
well,
kind of
I said outside of YouTube.
oh okay outside okay that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm
But
talking
on
about like, right.
okay, so I'll all right. I
I
mean,
mean,
I
I'm
can
not going to
believe
pretend
that.
like he doesn't say a lot of things that are extremely controversial on YouTube. That would be ridiculous. I'm saying that the conversations I've had with him, um, he's not the way that I see him in a lot of the videos that I've seen him in. So that's what I would say.
Okay,
And so
I
that's
can
why that's why I was willing to talk to him because we talked before we came on air. And so that's why I was willing to talk to him. I was like, okay, um, you're a person I could have a conversation with. However, I want to say I do agree with you. Like, there has to be a base point for it. I'm in a conversation with somebody right now, and I said, before this conversation moves forward, let's just establish this one thing, right? Because if we can't agree on this one thing, then we probably aren't going to be able to have a conversation. And that was just like, it's something silly. Like, did the Greeks and the Assyrians that invaded Egypt, were they white or were they not white? Were they black, right? If you, I say that they were white, right? If you think they're black, then the whole conversation we're about to have is moot, right? Because the
I thought
premise of the
everybody knew that they
conversation,
were mates. But
oh,
go
well,
on.
girl, no. Girl, no. Somebody is like literally saying, I said Egyptians started out black, but they are no longer black because they've admixed. His argument is they did not admix. I said, well, then what were the Greeks and the Assyrians if they weren't white? His response was, I'm just saying they didn't get invaded by non-black, non-black people or something. And I'm like, so, yeah. So that if they didn't get invaded by non-black people, we can't have a conversation, right? Because the
Mm,
basis for this conversation is during those invasions, could there have been admixing that led to them looking basically white right now, right? But if you're not willing to acquiesce that they were ever invaded by anybody who wasn't black, then that just going to take us down a rabbit hole I can't go down. Anyway, I'm bringing up this kind of silly conversation to say that I agree with you. Um, if we don't have a base point, then we can't start somewhere. My baseline with Tommy, to bring it back to that, was that number one, there are things I actually agree with him on. I don't know if you guys have watched that interview, but he's not 100% wrong. Um, I definitely agree. He said Black women are far more attractive and exotic looking in their natural state. I definitely agree with him with that. I definitely agree with him that it doesn't help the situation for people to make weird accounts about his children, about his daughter, or to give him nicknames like Crispy. I just think that that's inappropriate. It's funny how that's not okay until you don't like somebody, then it's okay, you know? I
right.
agree with him that we can't promote or protect certain sorts of degenerate behavior. We have to be willing to call that out. How it's called out is where he and I differ. And if you watch the interview, you know that I said that. Like, when you position it like this, people aren't going to receive it. You know what I mean? So there's places where I agree with him, there's places where I don't agree with him. But of course, the purpose of the interview was not to get him to submit to my opinion. It was for us to have a dialogue, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. And like that was really like my main gripe with you is that I just didn't feel like after watching that video, I was interested because I'd never seen anybody actually interview him. Like after I seen his videos when I was a teenager, and I was just taken aback by all of the vitriol he had for certain groups of women. And like I said, I just didn't feel like that interview was productive at all. I think he cursed a lot and just pretty much, just kind of stood his ground and how he wanted to lay things on to people. But I just felt like I was just trying to think to myself, like, what would be her reason that she would do this? Because I mean, I know for me, like speaking from my point of view,
Mm-hmm.
um, growing up as a dark, I know like my picture is like is lighting as a very chocolate girl. Um, I came across his videos because like boys in high school would tease me about my skin. And so I would look up like dark skin, et cetera, on YouTube. And I would randomly come across his videos and he would be talking about black women who look raggedy or black women who do this and black women are ugly, et cetera, et cetera. I think we can at least agree that yes, you don't a person doesn't have to be 100% wrong, but that is even more deadlier than that person who is like 50% right is even more dangerous than the person who is 100% wrong because you can easily dismiss somebody who is 100% wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Someone comes up to you and says 2 + 2 = 5, you can be like, no. You know what I mean? But that person who the danger lies where you have a little bit of truth, but like a whole lot of out of context information. And that's what kind of scared me about watching that interview because I saw like it's actually like an intelligent woman who I actually admire you and Chrissy and other female YouTube content creators. Um, I just thought it was scary for you to have like a conversation with this guy who pretty much makes money off of ragging on black women. And I just thought it was
Mm-hmm.
weird. That's my gripe with you.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think it definitely should be said that I've done lots of panels and I've done interviews with men that don't have the highest opinion of women in general. I think for me, I don't, I'm willing to talk to almost, not anybody, but almost anybody, right? And I think it's just really important that as people hear me talk, like no matter where I am, right? Because I have some men that have a problem with female content creators that I deal with. I have women that aren't really fond of some of the male content creators that I've um, done collaborations with or that I've interviewed or whose panels I've been on. But I hope what everybody can definitely say is that I'm very consistent with my personal stances, regardless of who I'm talking to. But I do try to have a conversation for the most part with everybody and get to know people for myself and derive my own opinions. Um, and so, yeah, so I can understand how it could be uncomfortable to see that happen. And I also understand when you say he didn't move the bar, but I do want to emphasize that, conversations aren't always to move the bar, at least with me. Um, we hope, right, that we can find middle ground and move the bar? Yes. But I don't go into conversations, with the intent of convincing people to come off their square. If they move, then they move. If they don't, then we had the conversation. And what happens after that is, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
That makes sense. And I guess like everybody, like I guess how else would he be able to make his money? Been doing this for the past 10 years, and so like I understand to a certain degree that like to convince somebody otherwise would just be like kind of pointless. But yeah, I just
And I think
hope
it's a lot
that
to ask too. If I can keep it real, I think it's a lot. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead and
you're
finish.
good, good.
No, I think it's a lot to ask too. Um, and, just broadening this even past, Tommy, when we, when we greatly as a community reject somebody, all right, let's use Candace Owens. She's done the most, right? When we as a community reject somebody, you almost put them in a box where if they ever wanted to turn back, they can't. And this is especially true, Candace Owens, she's got married, she has a baby, right? If she says, I'm no longer going to, sell my people up the river for money, then what space is there for her in our community where she can thrive and be redeemed? If there's not a space there, then a person, no matter what their inner feelings are, right, are always going to be locked in that position. So, in a way, people can alienate themselves, but we can cement that alienation. And I'm not saying the door should never be fully shut. I'm just saying it's something to consider when we are dealing with people, that if you don't offer people paths of redemption or reconciliation, then that assures there will be no reconciliation. And I mean, I'm not naive to think that everybody can, is going to kumbaya in the Black community. But I would say that definitely if we left those paths open to more people, people can grow and transform themselves. But they have to have the space to do that. And at the end of the day, sometimes when a person has done something we view as very egregious, we don't think there's space for that. But if we keep it real, if it was one of us and we did something that we feel is not as egregious, we would want the space to be able to transform and grow and be accepted in a new sort of way and just, you know what I mean? Not be forced to stay in that box, you know? Um,
So you think that after, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up your time, you can remove me whenever you're ready. Um,
Go ahead.
you think that after like 10 years of pretty much the same rhetoric that he does he can have healing, because like I'm coming to you as like a Black woman who has experienced a lot of um the same type of ostracizing from the Black community. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm here speaking to you, having a civil conversation. I'm not here talking about, burn all the Black people, burn all Black American men or something like that. I'm just having like a civil conversation. And like nobody has um offered, like nobody's done that for me, right? Like nobody gave me like the olive branch for me to do that. I just matured. And I feel like this man who's like over, and I hate to like kind of dwell on this, but I really feel like with certain people, they're too far gone, especially like he's like, I don't know how old he is, like over 40. He's pretty much, he's pretty much moving he has a huge influence on people's minds at this point. And like I agree, like people with Candace, like Candace Owens, I think she is the way she is. Not to say there's anything wrong with her, but she has her own kind of standpoint because of the fact that there was nobody willing to have an honest conversation with her. But with this guy, I don't know. I just think that he just at this point he's just having fun. And but that would be like my last statement. I'll just thank you for answering my question.
No, for sure. Thank you for coming up. I appreciate it. Okay. So I'm going to, I think, oh, sorry. I think I have somebody else backstage. Yes, black skin is amazing. You can come up if you're still back there. Okay.
Okay.
Now remember, I'm going to put the invite link in the chat again. Just remember that if you want to call me out on something, um, if you want to call me out on something, you have to be willing to come up, right? You have to be willing to come up and call me out. You cannot call me out from the chat, you guys. You have to come up. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay? Hey, Black Skin is amazing. I'm interested to see what you're going to say. Because,
Uh,
you don't mind giving me smoke and you don't mind being nice. So I don't know which you I'm going to get. Are you a Gemini?
no, I'm Aquarius.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, then we should get along really well then, because my best friend is an Aquarius. So, so let's see where this goes, okay? Don't make Aquarius look bad around this camera, please.
no,
Okay, what are you calling me out on, dear?
well, before I get started, I just want to say you're an extremely beautiful, intellectual woman. Very, very yummy to look at as a guy. So I appreciate your beauty and your intellect. So I want to say that first of all. Okay.
Okay, now
Now,
I feel like you're about to shove the knife in me. You're
oh
like,
no, no, no,
let me cream it over first, and
no, no. I
and I'll
appreciate.
shove the knife in you.
No, I appreciate my beautiful black women. Black women are the most amazing women in the world when they want to be. A lot don't want to be, or maybe not want to be, but don't put in the effort. You put in the effort to look like, you know, one of the most beautiful women in the world. So all that melanin and your body's dope and your intellect.
Okay, wait, no, just tell me,
No, no,
just
but
tell me what you came
seriously,
up for, brother.
and your speech is on point. I think you're an amazing human being. I remember, like last year, you were saying that I connected with what you said. You said that you had to send in, you had to tell people on your resume that you were black because they would read your resume and hear you on the phone. You sound like a white woman, and then they saw you in person, and you were like, okay, right? You do you remember saying that last year?
Yeah, yeah, I do remember talking
I
about
was like,
that. Yes.
wow, and that was real. I mean, that was beautiful. Oh, so let me get started. It's not really. I'm not here to roast anyone, especially not you. You're too cute. If you was ugly, yeah. But I want to ask you this: you, Cynthia G, Black Woman Sphere, you guys say that it's black men's fault that the black community got conquered, and that's why we're in the condition we are in today as a people group because it's black men's fault that we got conquered ultimately. And I imagine you're talking about being enslaved and Jim Crow, right?
Okay, so I really want to no, I think saying black men are responsible for it, I think that's true. And I don't mean slavery and Jim Crow. I mean throughout the diaspora, right? What we saw happen in Oceania, what we saw, the brutality we saw throughout the Africas, um, all of that. Um,
Okay, okay,
so
but
yeah.
okay, I don't care.
But I prefer to say they are responsible, right, for whether we are conquered or competing, then I want to say that it's their fault. Because when you're in a battle or in a competition or a wartime situation, it's not your fault if you lose, but you didn't succeed, right? So I want to be careful, like the wording. But I can only
So
speak for myself. I can't speak for the other lady.
okay, so you're saying that it's not our fault we got conquered as a people, right? Is that
But
what you're
I'm
saying?
saying that you guys, I'm
We
saying that
we just lost.
I'm
We just lost. Is that what
You
you're
lost.
saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that you guys are losing. Yeah, black men are not competing. And because men are the people that do the competing and the building of the community, that if our men throughout the diaspora don't compete, or if they're not capable or willing to do what needs to be done to be competitive, then it causes the whole community to have their status lowered. But it starts like with
Yeah,
you guys and where your status is.
yeah, yeah, okay, but I just want to focus on because I'm ADOS FBA, so
Okay,
I
that's
just care
fair.
about America. I don't know too much about Oceania, and stuff like that. So just focus on America. So, well, my comeback would be like to Cynthia G. I see her, she's in the chat, right? And she just chews guys out. I mean, she destroys black men. And I appreciate that. She's a thinker. But I would want to say to you and to Cynthia G, who's in the chat, is this. Um, yes, we were conquered, right? Obviously, slavery, Jim Crow proves that. But my point is this: is that um, you Jewish women never ever say that. Oh yeah, our men allowed us to be conquered to the point of being almost extinct by Hitler. The Holocaust. Jewish women don't ever look at their men and say, it's your fault that we were put in the Holocaust and 90% of the Jews in Europe were killed. That never comes out of their mouth. They always look at the perpetrators, Hitler and the Nazis, as the sick perpetrators of bastards. And it's always their venom is always at Hitler and the Holocaust and the Nazis. It's never at their own men, even though their own men were holocausted right along with them, with their kids. 90 Hitler extincted 90% of all the Jews in Europe, and the final solution, like, I'm going to get rid of all the Jews in the world. That was his goal. But Jewish women to this very day, whether they were in the Holocaust or the kids or the grandkids, they never ever point a finger at the men. And you black women do that, and that's the disappointing thing is that black women, especially black American women, are the only group of women who point to the men and say, it's your fault we got conquered. Native American women don't do that. The Japanese, when we conquered the Japanese in World War II with the nuclear bombs, they never looked at their men and said, well, we just got conquered. Like, it's your fault. So I think that's a lacking, but I can understand that why black women say that, because black women are such a degraded group of people. Some say the most degraded group of people in human history, that they want someone to blame, right? So if
But
they
can you
can't,
before you
okay, no,
move
I'm
on
going to
to
shut
your
up. Go ahead. No, I'm
no, I
shutting
was
up.
going to say before you move on to your next point, I wanted to talk about like your first point, the comparisons, right? So I'm not Jewish, so I don't know if the women while they were in the concentration camps and being oppressed, and mind you, there were black people there too, right? I don't know if they were complaining about the men or not, about not being protected or not. But I know that if they're not complaining today, it's because the Jewish people make up a very small part of the world's population, but they have an immense amount of power, even though they're very few in number. Their country, right, that they all are attached to, literally is paid money by most of the dominant nations on the planet. They control, right, much of the media in the Western world. They control much of the industry in the Western world. They control most of the banks in the Western world, especially these global multinational banks. So Jewish women have no reason to complain, right? Because whatever happened in the Holocaust, whatever failure their men made to protect them has been more than rectified at this point, right? You also brought up the Japanese as an example.
Wait,
So,
if
go
you can
ahead.
just stay there at the Holocaust. Okay,
Yes.
I'm talking about when they, when they just got out of the Holocaust, right? I like to watch documentaries, right?
Well,
Right.
when was the Holocaust? How long
1930s and
ago was the Holocaust?
1930s and 1945. But I'm
Okay,
just saying that
but now we're in
no,
2021.
hang on.
Uh-huh.
No, but hang on. I'm just saying that when they got released, right, and they were ragged people, they were forsaken. Telling Cynthia G, because she says no, they did complain. I want her to find a video saying or showing these Jewish women complain that the Jewish men failed them and they got conquered. That's not
Well,
true.
this
They
is what.
they and only black women do that. That's not
No,
true. They don't
can
do
I
that.
say something though?
Yeah,
You
I'm
can't
shutting up.
compare it though. You can't compare it though, because if if this all went on in recent history, right? We have pictures of it. We can put our hands on it. Black women are in a totally different position. Our situation has been for several hundred years, right? So, if anything, obviously, right? Let's say that you and I are married, okay? and we live next to another couple, and we come to a new land at the same time,
No, hang on, hang on,
and they start.
no, hang on. I would love to be married. Or keep
Okay.
going.
So, and so we come into a new country with the same with another couple, and they start building a house, and we start building a house. All right. And 50 years goes by, and they finally get their house up, right? And they're living in their house and everything, and you're still cutting down the logs of the house. Nothing's been built. You're still cutting down the logs. Okay, fine, right? 100 years goes by. Now they have a house, and they're also starting to build like a little store. And you're still cutting down trees to create the logs to build our house. 200 years goes by. Now they've started up a little bit of a town. They have a house, they have a store. They're starting up a little bit of a town. They're starting to lay roadways. And you're still cutting down the logs to build our house. 300 years goes by, and then you and I have a conversation, and you're like, man, you're complaining. You don't see their women over there complaining. His wife is not complaining. And my response to you is, it's because you're still cutting down the logs. You're still chopping the trees down to create the logs to build the house. I don't have anything to show, right, for all this work that you go out to seem to do every day. I don't have a roof over my head. I don't have a warm place to sleep. I don't have any security. I'm open to the elements. So at what point does it matter what his wife is doing? Because her situation is totally different than mine, or what she ever did do, right? Maybe they didn't do it because they didn't have enough time built up of inaction to complain. The real question is that we have to ask is, if after several hundred years of oppression, right? Because we are only going to deal with ADOS, after several hundred years of oppression, in which we know Black women were not complaining. We know that it was toward maybe the last 50 years of slavery that I myself was able to present a slave narrative where the woman was simply asking for the men to do something, right? Please do anything. Please join together so that we can get our people released from slavery. She gave a whole speech about this, right? And then if we fast forward 200 more years, our social progress has been increased in that we're not in chains, literally, right? But we're still at the bottom of the totem pole, and we still don't have a stronghold in any firm foundation in society, communally. Is it really fair to say that a woman who's never had to deal with that she's an example of not complaining when she's never had hundreds of years of oppression like that? I mean, how long did the Holocaust last? It was like a spit in history compared to our saga, right? And number two, when they now have been, their retribution has come. Their men are literally controlling the world. The Jews control the world. So I just think that comparison is very poor. It didn't happen to them for nearly as long. Jews were very affluent in Germany when the Holocaust was started. This was part of the outrage of those white Jews, was that they were very affluent. And a lot of people had animosity toward that. So it's not like they started at the bottom. They started at the top, had a brief few decades of being at the bottom, and now they are running the whole planet. Can we really compare the Black experience that went on for hundreds of years of oppression, followed by hundreds of years of a lack of social progress? Can we compare those two things in honesty?
Well, my point was just that when they got out of the Holocaust, Jewish women did not blame their Jewish men. That's still a fact. I understand everything you said, but that doesn't refute my point. That after the
Do we think
Holocaust,
Black women were blaming Black men during slavery?
you read one the story you
No,
read
no, no,
suggests
no.
there's blaming, right?
But we had already been slaves for several hundred years by the time she wrote that, right? We had already been slaves for over 200 years by the time she wrote that. So I think at that point, she's justified in saying, we need to fight. We need our men to fight, right? At that point, 200 years in, she can say that and that be okay, right?
No,
My question is, do we know that was happening 50 years in? We don't.
Okay, let's talk about that lady you wrote. You spoke about that said
Yeah.
black men were not, standing up. I laugh at that because if um, if that did she die before the Civil War?
Did she pass away before the slaves
Yeah,
were freed?
yeah. Did she die?
I don't think
Because you
she
said it
passed away
was
before this. Yeah, because it was very nearby, but I'm not 1,000% sure, so I don't want to speak on that. If she didn't
okay.
die before the Civil War, she might have died shortly after, because it was about, it was less than 50 years before it was more like 30 something, like less than 40 years before slavery was ended.
Okay, because what I wanted to say is like that lady, if she would have just wait, I don't know if she's alive or not. You don't know, I don't know, but um, sh- we black men as slaves, we won the Civil War. So she was saying like, why don't they stand up for themselves? And we just needed the
Hmm.
right opportunity, and we did. We actually won the
Mm.
Civil War for the Union. That's a fact.
Wait, wait,
Abraham,
wait. You think black men won the Civil War for the Union?
yes. Hang on, give
Okay,
me
this
one
is
more.
what I'll wait.
Yeah.
This is what I want to say. Before I would give credit to even one black man that fought alongside white men who were not concerned with slavery, because remember what the president at the time said, I wouldn't free any slaves if the South would simply stop hoarding all the wealth. That's really what he said, right? I didn't He said if I could solve this problem between the North and the South without freeing any of you guys, I wouldn't do it. But he recognized the only way to have the wealth distributed throughout the United States the way they wanted was to take the South, who had so much power and kept threatening to secede, was to crush the South. So it wasn't about us. So the fight that we fought was not about slavery. I would give more credit, I'm going to give you a point that you could have made, that people like the black slaves that escaped slavery and fought in the Seminole Wars, that those black Seminoles, or Gullah Geechee as we call them, I would think they would be a better example of people who put the fear in white people toward ending slavery. They were the ones all over the newspaper where they were slaughtering white people for 50 years straight, wave after wave, right? And even some of them sold out to the Spanish, right? So even that was not a fully united front, because some of them broke off and sold themselves out to the Spanish because they got tired of the suffering that came with the battle.
Okay, so are you
But
saying
I, Mhm.
are you saying that we black men, ADOS, FBA didn't win the Civil War for America? Are you saying that?
I'm saying that the Civil War was not about slavery.
No. I
The
understand
only
that. No,
thing,
no, no. I
so
just
so
answered
this
that
is,
question. Did
and
did
I'm going to say that most of the people that fought in the Civil War were not black,
no?
right?
I agree with you. I agree with you. But
So
I'm
then, if
asking.
you make up the minority, right, the vast minority of that's sort of like saying a very small percentage of the army are black people. If America goes to a war and wins a war, do we say black men won the war when they're a small percentage of the entire army?
Um, yeah, I don't follow that example because I'm focused on this.
Well, because that's
This.
literally what you're saying. You're saying if an army goes to war and black men make up a very small percentage of the army and the war is won, then it follows that black men won the war.
Oh no, so you got it wrong.
Okay,
Mm,
maybe I'm misunderstanding you.
yeah, I don't know if you understand what happened. This was going on, as you said correctly. Abraham Lincoln said, basically, screw those. I don't care about the slaves. That's not an issue. I just back in the Union, to be America again, right? And the Confederacy said, hell no, and so they fought a civil war. Um, the only that Abraham Lincoln said, okay, we need black soldiers because he said, I'm almost speaking verbatim. He said that if these black slaves to fight for us in the military, we are going to lose the war, and with the war, we're going to lose the Constitution. And Abraham Lincoln said that just can't happen. And he said, Abraham Lincoln, look it up, said we can't win this war without these black men. We and that's
Well,
what
I don't
caused.
want to look it
Let,
up.
let,
Will you look that up and put the link in the chat so we can all read it?
yeah, no, well, and you can just Google. Abraham Lincoln literally said that if we don't get these
Well,
Negro
you're
men,
quoting it though. You seem to be familiar with the
oh,
quote. Can
I'm very
you
familiar because I
put
love
it in the
American
chat?
history.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I was saying. Can you find it and put it in the chat?
yeah, I won't. But if people don't want to Google, fine. They don't. They don't. It's true. So
Well, I was just saying for the sake of conversation, right?
yeah,
Because
because
I
yeah,
can't refute or co-sign
yeah,
something that I've never heard before.
yeah. I
Can
love American
anybody
history.
find that? If somebody in the
Yeah,
chat wants to Google it, and if you
yeah.
can find it,
Yeah, Abraham
um,
Lincoln was like, if we don't get
don't
these
find a
men,
picture and a meme, y'all. Don't put a meme in the chat because we know a lot of these memes are historically inaccurate. Like there will be reputable sites with where his writings and his speeches are, and if you guys can find that, please put it in the chat.
we won the war for America to become America again. And so we were never
But that means
afraid.
you won the war not to end slavery. You won the war to help one group of white people
No, no, no.
get into the wealth of another group of white
No,
people because that's
that,
what the war was about.
no, that's not Lincoln. They were saying to Abraham Lincoln when they realized, hey, we're going to win these war because these black men have come in and won the war, and they were put them back in slavery. And Abraham Lincoln said, hell no, these men fought for their freedom, and we will give it. He goes, I will give it to them. I will not take back my word because pressure on them. Like, wow, these black soldiers are killing it, man. We're winning the war now. And they were saying like, hey, seems like we're going to win this war now because we got the black soldiers. Let's just put them back in slavery and take back your promise. And Abraham Lincoln's on record saying, I will not do that. These men fought for their freedom. So it wasn't like, see, Abraham Lincoln understood. It's like, hey, these men fought for their freedom. They're not fighting for the Union. They're fighting for their freedom. He goes, the white men are fighting for the Union. They're fighting for their freedom because he says every man has to have a motive. And he goes, obviously, the only reason these black men are fighting so fiercely for us is because they want their freedom.
Well,
They earned it. I'm
they
the
were promised. What were they? What were the promises that were attached with them fighting?
they weren't promised essentially anything. Just Frederick Douglass was saying like, "Hey, you're losing this war. Let us black men fight, so we will, fight and earn our freedom and our respect at the same time." And
Wait,
Abraham
Johnny
Lincoln said,
Romaine,
"Okay,
can you go and see if you can find where Abraham Lincoln said they could not win the war without
yeah."
black men?
All historians know
Can
that.
you do that?
Because that's
Johnny, can you
why.
do that? Jamaican? I just want somebody to, I've literally never heard this before.
Oh,
That's why I'm
really?
asking for
Oh,
somebody. I've never heard that Abraham Lincoln said they could not win the Civil War without
without
the
the
help of black
black
men.
men, yes, because they were losing the
Yeah,
war,
I'm
and that's
asking
why.
for somebody to go and vet that because
And
I can't. If y'all don't
that
go and vet it, I'm gonna have to go vet it.
that's common. All historians know that. That's common. That's common knowledge. That's why Black Americans, ADOS, FBA, we need to study
But wait, even if I give you that point, because
because we
clearly nobody's
shine.
gonna go do it, so I'll have to do it afterward. Even if I give you that point, what if after slavery ended? Okay, so you were like, I'm gonna pair up with, the North, right, to fight the South because the residual of that might be that I get out of slavery, right?
No, it wasn't. Might be
So
like no. We will earn our freedom, and they did. Frederick Douglass was always a.
okay, so then are you saying because we're no longer in chains and because black men fought in that war, that then black women, there should be no other expectation and we don't have any other reason to have complaints or concerns about the state of the community?
No, no, no. The complaints is the complaints. What I'm saying is that Black women are complaining against about black men. No, their fingers should be pointed at white man supremacy, racism, not us. Like the Jewish woman
Yes,
pointed at
that's true.
Germany,
But
right? That's what I'm
who
saying.
has
That's all I'm
to
saying.
fight? But right, I agree with that.
Yeah,
But if we point and say white supremacy is the problem, these white men are the problem,
yeah.
who's going to defeat them?
What do you mean defeat them? Like, what do you mean
Well,
defeat?
okay, so when the white man went into the Congo, he chopped off the arms and legs of the man, defeated them, and
Yeah,
now they own all the rubber plantations in the Congo. When they wanted to keep black people enslaved, the most brutality was exacted against black men to keep them in check, right? Remember, you probably remember where I read the slave narrative where that black man talked about all the ways that they would try to diminish intentionally the manhood of black men to show them that they were not supposed to resist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question is, if we all point the finger at white supremacy, I can agree with you there. At some point, those people have to be dealt with. Who's going to deal with them? Us or you guys?
Well, we have dealt with them. This I don't understand why
How have we dealt with them if our position's the
Okay,
same?
how about the black woman like 40 years ago sued the KKK and bankrupted the
No,
KKK,
how is
wiped
how
them out,
is
right? It's like
how is
we're doing it.
how is using a legal system controlled by white people to get money controlled by white people defeating them?
See, and that's the thing. It's not controlled by white people. The
It's not?
system, no, the system. Okay, if you understand the Constitution, right, and the Bill of Rights, right, are colorblind documents. It's not a white man document or a black man document. Those documents, which we live under the Constitution and the Bill of written during slavery, those are colorblind documents. That's what Frederick Douglass kept saying. Like,
Why is it not white money?
all money's green, right? White money's green.
All money's not green. Some money's not green. But how is it not white people's money?
It's not white people's
Here's a
money.
here's a question.
We are under the United States
Do we live in
Constitution.
the Western world? Do we live in the Western world?
We live in America. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's part of the Western world though, right?
Well, it's America, so I don't know what you mean when you say Western. I'm an American. I don't say
You've
I'm a
never heard the
Western man.
term the Western world?
Yeah, but not in the way you're using it because I'm an American.
No, I'm not using it anyway. I'm asking you, do we live in the Western world? If you know what the Western world means, then you know that we live in the Western world, right?
I live in America. That's what I know.
But
I'm an
America is
American.
part of the Western world, is it not?
Okay, explain exactly what do you mean when you say Western world? Because I've never called myself a Western man. You know what I'm saying?
I mean the global definition of the Western world.
Well, explain it.
The global definition of the Western world are all nations that have been conquered by Europe. Any nation that's been conquered by Europe that is not part of the Portugal or Spanish conquest is considered part of the Western world. That means they have like, okay, so that would be America, Canada, right?
Yeah, but I'm American.
Australia.
I'm not Canadian. I'm not a part of any of those countries. So
but it doesn't. But wait, it doesn't matter because the world definition. This is what the world says, right? Is that these are nations that are part of something called the Western world. That's not my opinion. That's literally what we live in. We live in the Western world. When they say the West da 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 or the East da da da, that's what they're talking about. So this isn't my personal interpretation of
I'm not
the
saying
definition.
that. I'm
right. So
I'm
then,
just saying that I'm American.
How is that not
That's
controlled by white people? If literally by definition, that's exactly what it means.
Like I said, American ADOS.
No,
FBA.
I'm just I'm just asking. I'm not like.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that's
just
literally the definition that our country has.
Okay, and I'm leaving that alone because I'm not under any Australian, Canadian, or German government, right? I'm under one constitution, the American Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. So that has no bearing upon me. We just had
our national anthem is to the same theme as Britain's.
Yeah,
our Constitution is modeled after theirs.
And
our monetary systems are privately controlled by Jewish white people.
Okay, hang on. Am I under?
And our government is ran by predominantly white men. How is it not?
No. Am I under the British Constitution or the American Constitution?
Is that a real question? Because that's
a real question.
I would say technically you're under the British Constitution.
Come on. Okay. So commit a crime in America and I'm going to go in jail in Britain? Come on.
No, you'll go to jail in America. You'll go to
because
jail
I'm under
America.
American Constitution. See,
I'm going to give you an example. No, I'm about to give you an example. I'm about to give you an example. Listen. So, I might have let's say we own stores. The two of us own a store in a city, right? We own stores in the city. And the city has a law. And the law is that you have to pay a certain minimum wage to the people that are working in the store, right? And I start opening up different chains, and you start opening up different chains. And in one of my chains, I find out that, let's say, the manager of that chain is not paying people minimum wage. I might punish him and fire him or something like that. I'd be like, you're fired. You're supposed to be paying minimum wage. Now, am I engaging in this behavior, and are my penalties because of my personal model for my chain, or are my penalties because of an overarching model for our city? And I'm going to bring that example. Just give me one more second. Follow me here. The Western world is designed a certain way. Every country that is part of the Western world has a very similar system. They all have constitutions that are modeled after the monarchy. They all have a version of a social security number, a number that identifies each person, right? They all have similar colors for the things that represent them. This red, white, and blue thing, that is a European thing that's modeled after the monarchy. So although we operate, like I have a store and I have my chains, right? What the actual social structure, the structure of America, is because we are part of the Western world. And when the European went out and conquered various lands, what they did is they remade their social structure. Even if you go into Encyclopedia Britannica, the Britannica itself, this is what white people say about themselves. It says that Europe's its greatest export is their culture. That's their greatest export. Not goods, not gold, not wool, not flaxseed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But their culture is the
I'm
greatest export.
yeah. Okay,
And
I'm not
because
hearing any of
because
that.
we are considered part of the Western world, we're not that independent, or there wouldn't be a term, the Western world. We wouldn't have the same flag colors as everybody else in the Western world. We wouldn't have the same hymn to our national anthem as everybody else in the Western world. We wouldn't have basically the same kind of constitution as everybody else in the Western world. And we also wouldn't be in a position where we were constant allies without wavering with other countries in the Western world. We're very united in that way. So, in technical senses, yeah, like they do run us. They absolutely do run us.
Okay, and I'm going to agree to disagree because, like I
Okay.
said, when somebody in the Western world breaks a law, they get charged and in prison in their own country, not in America. So that's why I'm standing on that point right there. That despite
Okay.
the argument you made, when a person in that country commits a crime, unless it's an international crime, they get charged and punished in that country, each separate country. Yeah, we all work together because that's that just creates a better unity and more peace. But I'm when I if I get a speeding ticket, I mean, if I speed and get caught, I don't get charged in Britain, punishment, or Australia. It's American. So I just disagree. I agree to disagree that no,
So, can
we
we
are
agree
under.
on something else before we go, other than disagreeing? Can we agree that um, even if I gave you that delineation, that they are going to unify, right, all of their countries under ID 2020, and that this is a very real thing that our country has signed on to, hence our real ID, and that is eventually going to be upgraded. We've already agreed as a country to upgrade that to what is essentially a global identification, where you can be held accountable, tracked, marked, and all of that throughout the Western world. So, whatever delineations existed, we've already agreed to wipe them clean, right? Can we agree on that?
It hasn't happened when that
I
if
mean, it has happened. That's why we have the real ID.
no,
First, every country agreed to first um, implement a national ID, and then that national ID would then be used to go ahead and create that global system. So to say it hasn't been implemented when we're literally in the throes of doing it right now, do you know what I mean?
okay, what I'm saying is this: when we commit crimes, even this very day, we are still charged and punished under the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and state and local laws. So I'm not debating what you're saying, right? I'm just simply saying that in this moment, it is still the same as it was 30 years ago. Commit a crime, you get caught, you're gonna get charged under the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the local laws, state laws, whatever. It's not going to be German laws or British laws or Australian laws, and it is
Even if
right
all the
now.
laws are the same and modeled after each other.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if they're same and
Okay.
model at each other,
Okay.
that's still
Okay.
their country. And I'm not going to go to jail in America and Britain for a speeding ticket I didn't pay in America. You know
Right.
that.
But
You
we
know
got
that.
into this conversation because you said that that it wasn't white money or a white country. And I was just drawing the correlation that it is white money and it is a white country. And that's why I brought in the conversation about the Western world. And you asked me to qualify that, and I was qualifying it by saying every country under Western control, European control, uses the same model, and that's the Great Britain model. So that's
Okay,
all that I was
it's like
saying.
this.
At least we can agree
Okay,
on
but
that,
well,
since
it's
that's
like this.
actually
Okay,
factual, right? That's not
yeah.
opinionative.
Okay, but every marriage is based off the marriage license, right? But each marriage is going to be different within its own household, how it operates, what you can and cannot do within that marriage. So even if you use the same system, you're going to get different results in different areas, even though it's the same system, because everyone's using the same basic marriage license, right? And we all know in different households, as a let a black guy blow his wife's back out, and another black guy with his black wife was like, hell no, she belongs to me. And one will beat his wife, and another. So each individual country operates like each individual marriage in a home differently, even though they're under the same system. So yeah, and I want to say you have to go right now, right?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm about at an hour. I'll give one more because I've only had two people up. I'll give one more person a chance to come up if you guys want.
Hello,
Sorry about that. Otherwise, I'm going
hello.
to. Yeah. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on and being respectful and kind. And
Of
I
course.
really do think you're an amazing woman. And if black women look like you across America, there would be no interracial dating, because I truly think that you are one of the most beautiful women on YouTube, flat out. And 40 something, right? 50 or something like that? Right?
You
Aren't you
are.
like, are you,
You know
right?
what? I'm gonna say this. I appreciate the compliment, but you also know I hate when we're weaponized against each other because it doesn't accomplish anything.
Yeah, but we're not
Don't.
weaponized against each other. I'm just in full awe and appreciation of you, like your natural long hair, your chocolate skin, your body, your intellect,
Okay, okay,
your
yeah. See, this is
mouthpiece.
the black skin is amazing. That's why I said, are you a Gemini? Because this is how you
No,
are. This is how you
I'm a
are when you're on my channel too. Sometimes you get hecka intellectual. Other times you're like hecka, on the body tip. Other
no,
times
because
you're
okay,
totally.
no,
That's why I
I'm
thought
a
you were a Gemini because I was
no.
like, he. You never know which black skin is amazing you're gonna get.
No, I'm Aquarius and I'm a heterosexual. So is it wrong for
Okay,
a heterosexual man to appreciate black women of your statue on a live stream? I mean, I'm not like
okay, yeah. So
I understand that there's a lot of men on YouTube that call women black bees and black dogs. A lot of them don't. They were raised by single mothers, and their single mothers put them through the ringer, right? So now that they're an adult and they're able to rage on YouTube about black women, they rage. So I get it. And black women do the same that don't have fathers. Like Cynthia G. I figured Cynthia G is a very beautiful
okay,
person
no, wait,
that
okay,
she
well,
admits.
okay. And with that said, black skin is amazing. I appreciate you for coming up so much. I'm going to give somebody else the
Okay,
opportunity to come up,
Irene,
dear.
let me finish this
I'll
one
talk
thought.
to you later.
No,
No,
can
no,
I
I
finish
don't
this
want you
one
to finish.
thought?
No, 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 no,
No,
I don't
I
want you to
think
finish
no,
the
it's
thought.
about you. I'm just thankful that you invited me, and I'm really in awe of your presence and your beauty and your intellect. Like I'm being really serious right now. That I am literally in awe of your presence, your intellect, your beauty. You are the full package, and so I respect and honor you. I don't agree with what you say, honestly, but I'm literally in awe of you, and I would hope to marry a wife like you one day. I'd be satisfied. And with that, I'll let you go. And thank you very much. And
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Okay. So, um, if anybody else wants to come up before I go, I'll let one more person come up because our conversations were just a little bit longer than I expected. I'm not good at, like, I like to hear people out. But somebody said, I do have a beef with one of y'all. Let's see. Shar St. Laurent said, she's light skinned, not chocolate skinned. I'm definitely not light skinned. Definitely not light. I am not light at all. So anyway, that looks like that might be it. It doesn't seem like anybody else is trying to come up here because I put the link in the chat, right? But okay, well that's fine. I'm just saying now. I just want to say this one more time, you guys. Now I said like once a month I will do a call out session where you guys could just call me out on whatever you want to call me out on. But this means that I'm going to be less tolerant with trolls in the chat. So, at least one time a month, it could be more times a month if I feel like people have something to get off their chest, but at least one time a month, I will do a call out session. And you guys could come, you call me out if you want to call me out. You can say, what the issue is, what you want to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. But this means that I'm going to, because I have had, like earlier today, if you guys were here for the live earlier today, I had a troll in my chat that literally typed the same message for an hour straight. An hour. So that I'm not going to tolerate anymore. If you have something to say to me, you feel some kind of way, you're going to have to come to a call out session. All right. And then that'll be your opportunity to call me out. Otherwise, we're not going to do it because it just is it's like annoying in the chat. It doesn't progress the conversation, etc., etc., etc. Oh, you want the link? Okay. So one more person can come up. I'm going to put the link. Did you say link now? Okay. I'm not going to let you up because you already seem like a troll. But see how that got shut down real quick. But anyway, this was fun. This will go over. I think I'll put the call out sessions. Maybe I'll put them on their own playlist. I'm not sure. Maybe after we have 2 or 3, I'll put them on their own playlist. But until then, I'll probably just unlist them. Maybe put them with unlisted videos or something like that until we have enough for its own playlist. But anyway, will I have another call in? Yeah. Do you want to come up now, Olivia? If you want to come up real quick before I go, you can come up. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. But yeah, I will have another one. I'm going to try to have them at least once a month, maybe twice a month, but for sure at least once a month. So let me know. I think you are a troll though. Oh, okay. You can come up really quick. Let's do one more. And you could be my last person because I wanted to keep this about an hour. So if you come up, Olivia, you can be the last person. And then I'm going to shake the spot. Honestly, there were like 3 people who wanted to call me out during a live that there was not even for that. So I thought that they would show up, and none of them showed up. So there you go. Okay, I'll give you a second, Olivia. I'll give you a second, Olivia.
Hi.
Hi, Olivia.
Can you hear me, hon?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. If you hear a bird in the background, my apologies. That's the parrot. Let me go and try to get a noise canceling phone. Hold on. But how are you? I'm not gonna make it long. I wanted
Okay.
to um, ask you if in the future you could do a call-in show for addressing issues in the Black community that are rarely to never called out on or talked about, because it really does need to happen. It is a long running secret, the saying that happens within our community, what happens in our house stays in our house. That is detrimental to us, and we need to start being able to talk about these things and put these people and these perverts on Front Street, call them out by name.
Oh, so what topics are you thinking about for something like that? Like, for example,
Um, we can start with the protection of men who we know are predators. That could be one.
okay, that's fair. And do you have like
Um,
like a second topic maybe that you're thinking?
Talking about cognitive dissonance within that predatory nature, and how thinking time will heal all wounds when it doesn't.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We could definitely do that.
Yeah.
And I'll
Um,
try to make it like keep it like low pressure so that people feel comfortable like talking. Because my fear with that is I think a lot of people they engage in like victim shaming and stuff like that. Like people aren't allowed, you know.
Really?
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I know it exists, but
yeah.
it
So
still
I
needs to
don't
be
mind doing it, but
done.
I do want to do it in the right way because I want people to be able to speak without being attacked when
Mm-hmm.
they speak their mind, if you know what I'm saying? Because nobody wants to come up and bare their soul so that somebody can, treat them like trash. So,
Yeah, and I was thinking if there was a way to do that where a person can maintain their autonomy and still share their stories. So
yeah,
this is a thought,
I think,
and
I
I
think
thought
that's
your
a, no, I think
platform would
that's a
be
good idea.
yeah, and I thought that your platform will be a good um, area to do so. So
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I think we can definitely do that.
okay,
I think
and
that's a
that's
great idea.
yeah, I didn't know it was a call out show. I kind of caught the tail end of the live stream. So
It wasn't much of a call out because everybody's so sweet. I think the trolls only like to show up when we're having real conversations, but then when they have the opportunity to show up and, share their gripes, they don't come around. So,
I
so
think they're
that's fine though.
yeah, I just think they're fans.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that, which
Yeah.
is a little bit scary because you guys know that fan means fanatic. I know, like, I think a lot of people like the conversation and stuff like that, and like we vibe. And then I think some people literally are like fanatics, where, whether for better or worse, so I think
Yeah,
it could
that's
be a
kind of
problem.
scary.
Yeah, that's what's like the person that was in the chat and they were commenting the same thing for an hour. I was like,
I saw that.
that's a
Yeah,
mental problem. That's like a real mental like,
I saw
like
that.
you have to really be on something to do that repetitively for an hour straight. That's some weird
Mhm.
stuff. So that's definitely like a fanatic. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
But
I'm already nervous in my own home because I'm sitting up here watching Netflix Night Stalker, and I really shouldn't be watching that right now. It's just not a good idea.
what is that about? I don't even know what that's about.
It's talking about the serial killer from the early 80s in Los Angeles, the Hillside Strangler and the Night Stalker. He was running rampant in the early 80s. I mean, multiple body counts, and his victims were random. They had no relation to one another, and I'm watching how the police made mistake after mistake, trying to
Oh,
catch
it's based on
him.
a true story then.
Yeah, it's a series documentary.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Shanika said she saw it. I don't have Netflix, so I can't see it, but it does sound interesting. But I kind of get creeped out,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm getting creeped out, and I'm like, why am I still
Okay.
watching this? But I can't,
Yeah, it's
you
kind of
know,
like watching a train wreck.
I can't pull away. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to look, but since it's going on, I'm gonna look. But yeah, no, I think your idea is a really good idea. I think we can definitely do that for sure.
I came
Matthias,
about,
I would let you up except for this size bend streams person. I can't verify this channel. And now I'm concerned because he's just literally um, using like 8,000 troll accounts to come through. So, so now I don't want to be bothered because I feel like that's going to be like some kind of a weirdo. But anyway.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's all. I came about this idea researching my family's genealogy and, climbing back on the family tree, I found out some stuff that's, I'd rather not have known, but not I do.
Oh, no way. Well, I won't ask you what it is, even though I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, you do you agree that people have repressed memories?
Yes, I think you can have repressed memories.
Me finding out what I did unearthed a repressed memory that I completely shut out of my mind.
Yeah, isn't that weird when that happens and then you're kind of shocked at yourself that you don't recall it? It must
Right.
have been a traumatic, it must have been a traumatic memory.
It was very traumatic. And I just, I talked to my mom about it and she said, how come you never told me this? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely like trauma will make you. And that's probably like something we could talk about like um in that kind of call in that you suggested is sometimes when people suffer from trauma, this is definitely like my case. I know for sure when you have like severe trauma, you forget it. Things you could forget them for years. Do you know what I mean? And then suddenly, like one day, you just something triggers it or it just comes to mind and you're almost shocked at yourself because you're like, you know that that happened, but it's crazy how years can go by and you just don't think about it. It just gets pushed down. I think that's like for our protection because some things are just very heavy to like deal with.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like that's definitely a thing. I do believe that people have that because I've definitely had that happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And generational trauma from events that you weren't even present for, how you can still feel a certain level of anger or any emotion towards something that didn't even happen to you, but happened um, to someone else in your family.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a real thing. Um, because I know like if we all shake our family trees, like there are abuses and things that went on like throughout my family. And yeah, that's definitely it's traumatic to find out about. And then also in a kind of direct way, it affects you, right? Because those people, especially if like there's a direct lineage, like grandparent to parent to you or something, like that, then, there is a direct lineage of perhaps behaviors that are tied to that trauma being passed on. So then it like really affects you. Because I've talked about this here on the channel. You guys might remember, you guys know my mother died of cancer. Um, and I loved my mother, right? But definitely she had behaviors that were in her because of like severe abuse that she suffered. And so that affected the way that she interacted with me. And it also affected, the people who were surrounding like that abuse. So there's like that direct outrage that happened to somebody. in your family, and then there's that indirect effect where the abuser passes down these tendencies, and if it doesn't get checked or people don't acknowledge that that's like why they're moving the way they're moving, then it can have like a very literal effect on your life. And I think that can go on for many generations, not like just grandparent to parent to child, but great, great, great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so on and so forth. So I definitely think that that's like a real thing. And I don't think we talk about that and the effects that it may or may not have on us or our ideologies, things like that. I know I was talking to somebody about child abuse, and they were saying, well, their great grandmother or their grandmother or something had got married at the age of 13. And so, by way of her molestation and abuse, right, it was hard for them to comprehend that that behavior wasn't okay. Generations
Well,
later. So,
well, quick, my great grandmother, I was blessed to know her and have a relationship with her. Um, at the old age she was when I was a little girl, she still would get tears in her eyes, um, because when she was a young woman, when my grandparents were first married, she was pregnant with twins, and she gave birth to twins. The doctors took her babies, and they told her that her babies had died. She didn't believe it. They would not let her see them. They would not let her hold them, and she never saw them again. She still believed in her late 80s that her babies were still out there somewhere. That's the kind of trauma,
that's
you
unfortunate.
that she dealt with.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. And that can be very traumatic, especially with babies after you've given birth to
Yeah,
somebody to go through that. That can really mess a person up. It really
right.
can.
And I didn't understand at the time. I was maybe 12. I said, I that still makes you cry? It's been so long. Because I wasn't a mother yet. I didn't know that feeling. And so when I did become a mother, I understood. It never goes away.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. That is something that never goes away. I completely agree.
But that's all. I'm not going to take up more of your time. I appreciate you taking my call, okay?
No, thank you for coming up and thank you for the suggestion. We definitely have to do that.
Okay.
You guys have to help me think of a clever name for that, something that embodies what it is. So you can put it in the comment section if you can think of a name for us having a discussion about taboo topics. I think actually, what am I saying? I had a series called Normalized Dysfunction on this channel, actually. So maybe I'll just bring that series back, Normalized Dysfunction, because that's kind of things that we discussed were dysfunctional things that have been normalized in the Black community. So maybe it's time for a resurgence of that Normalized Dysfunction series because it's been over a year, I think, since I've done a video on that series. So there we go. I think we can definitely do it that way. Love Girl, I can't shoot you a cinnamon roll recipe, but I think that I made cinnamon rolls on my channel a couple of times. Or if you go to my bread making 101 video on my vlog channel, I actually walk you through an Amish white bread, which is sweet and uh, it's perfect for cinnamon rolls. So if you use that bread, it's perfect for cinnamon roll. It's like really perfect. Best cinnamon rolls ever. So if you can stand it, because I made that bread live, y'all. That I made 3 types of bread. That video was heck long. But you only have to be around for the part where I put all the bread together. You can let it rise and punch it down and do all the other stuff yourself because cinnamon rolls after you make the bread, it's super easy. Anyway, so with that said, I'm going to get out of here because I really only intended to be here an hour and it's an hour and a half. But just to reiterate, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a call out session once a month. I'm going to be a little bit more low tolerance in the chat just because maybe they'll drive like every once in a while, every blue moon, I get like a wave of trolls that are just very silly and then they go away, you know, because they don't really get any energy. So I got to kind of tighten the chat, but I still want to give people an opportunity to, you know, say what they got to say. And it's also good because you can say it to me versus when people type stuff in the chat or the comment section, we can't really talk like that. Versus if I hold a session like this, you guys can come up and we can like actually talk to each other. And so I want to thank um, the ladies and Black Skin for coming up and talking to me. I should have asked Afri if that's how you say her name. So Afri, Olivia, and Black Skin is amazing. I want to thank you guys for coming up, talking to me, and I will talk to the rest of you guys later.